What if the key to feeling more alive and fulfilled isn't found in changing your schedule, but in strengthening what's within? In part one today, Dr. Celeste Birkhofer shares how profound loss has shaped her understanding of resilience and the deeper resources we can all develop to move beyond quick fixes. If you've been craving more peace and purpose, even in the middle of everything that's going on at home, this episode will speak to you, so stay tuned. Welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. I'm Kendra Nielsen, wife, mom, and licensed therapist. Do you ever feel like you're doing everything right, but you're still exhausted and empty? Did you think life, marriage, and parenting would be simpler and more rewarding? Sometimes you just want to crawl back into bed and lose yourself in screen time and chocolate, rather than face that personal or family stress. You are not alone. This podcast helps you break free of the rat race and build a richer, more meaningful life, flourishing incrementally and realistically, improving your mental health and wellness, and living with deeper purpose beyond the mundane, no matter where you are in life's journey. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Celeste Birkhofer. She's a clinical psychologist and adjunct faculty member at Stanford University School of Medicine, Department of Psychiatry. She's passionate about helping people understand and take good care of their mental health. She's also the author of a new book coming out this September 2026 called Beyond Quick Fixes, Developing a Strong Foundation for Better Mental Health and a Fulfilling Life. Very excited to have you on the show, and especially about this book that seems to be like everything that we talk about on the show. So really excited to pick your brain a little bit.
Well, I'm delighted to be here with you and your audience.
So tell me a little bit about what drew you to becoming a clinical psychologist and what made you write this book.
I think what happened for me is that it was my own struggles with my mental health that first interested me in the field of psychology. I was a college student at UCLA, and from outward appearances, everything looked pretty good. I was excelling in school. I had friends and the trappings of what you'd think would be a good life. And yet inside, I had a lot of feelings of depression and sadness. I didn't really understand why. It seemed like I should be happy. I was studying to do pre-med then, and I ended up feeling bad enough. I started to develop a bit of an eating disorder, like binging and then running ridiculous amounts in order to burn off the calories. And I thought, this just can't be normal. I've got to figure out what's going on. So I went and sought a therapist out at school and began to learn a lot about myself and about this very loving family that I came from, but we had some issues that had a big impact on me. My dad's a recovering alcoholic now, but a very good, kind man. But in those days, our family didn't talk about what was going on. And so here I was, the sixth of seven kids with some scary things happening, like him not coming home and my brothers having to go out and find him, and finding him face planted in the gravel driveway with a bloody face. My mom thought it was protecting the youngest of us to just shoo us away to our bedroom and not really talk about what was happening. So I didn't get much help learning how to deal with hard feelings, scary things happening, confusion, sadness, fear, things like that. And that's, I think, part of what led to this eating disorder, is that I used food as a way to squelch down what I couldn't bear to think about or feel. Really radically changed things for me, learning that there were reasons why I was doing the things I was doing and reasons why I felt bad. Like part of my depression ended up being related to how inauthentically I was living. I tried so hard in my family not to be a source of stress for my mom, who had her hands full. And I learned how to push aside what mattered to me and try to be pleasing to others, which is kind of a good thing, to care about pleasing others, but so much so that I just didn't know who I was or what I really liked, what I wanted, how to ask for what I wanted, how to get my needs met in healthy ways. I changed my major from pre-med to psychology, and then I went on to get graduate degrees in psychology. I was impressed with how much therapy helped me change my own life. I wanted to be a part of doing that for other people. That's what really and sparks the passion for doing this kind of work and helping people understand themselves.
Thank you for sharing and being open and vulnerable about some of your experience too. I think a lot of that we can relate to. I know many listeners, clients have talked about also using food to push those feelings down and not even recognize what they're doing. But not even that, just like living inauthentically. Also, big one is being a people pleaser, like not even really recognizing their wants and needs until midlife, if even then, and wondering why there's that inner turmoil, chaos, anxiety, depression, those types of things that are coming up. Just meeting your needs in a healthy way, even through, actually, that'd be a question for you. Do you feel like through this journey, you've gotten better at that? But is that still a challenge to communicate your wants and your needs and find ways to get those met?
Absolutely. I think that is an ongoing struggle for most humans. One of our most important developmental tasks in life is learning how to get our needs met, depending upon how well that went for us when we were little and dependent on others to help us with that. We might have shortcomings in how easily we do that. But even for someone like myself and people who've been in therapy, it's not like a one and done thing. There's all kinds of reasons it can be challenging to, you don't want to burden other people. So sometimes you don't ask. Sometimes you don't feel entitled, so you don't ask. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into you feeling the right to have the needs that you have. The hardest part is finding constructive ways to get our needs met. The title of the book is Beyond Quick Fixes. That part of the title is about how there are a lot of really short, simple, quick things that a person can do to feel better instantly in the moment or to escape pain. And it's very tempting to grab hold of one of those ways of meeting our needs. Oftentimes, those things can lead to addictive behavior or have a negative consequence, like overeating. One of the ways I reward or comfort myself or have a pleasure in my life, I've had to learn that once you get your eating disorder figured out, it's like you have to eat all the time. You're eating all day long. It's like, how do I allow myself to use food as a source of pleasure and also care about my physical health and want to eat things that are not bad for me? Food can be an example of something quick. It's easily available. You can get it almost anywhere. They'll deliver it to your house for you. But it's like, how do you meet your needs in a way that's not too difficult, but that doesn't have too many unpleasant side effects? Or like getting lost on social media. We all love to go down the scrolling and lose ourselves and checking out those things. But you don't want that to be a bad thing you can't enjoy in your life. But you can lose hours stuck on social media. The kinds of things you start looking at, which starts out, oh, this will be fun. This will be a nice way to pass some time and take a break from work. But then you're comparing yourself to people's beautiful curated lives that look so perfect, and you walk away from your little time out to just enjoy some social media, subtly feeling bad about yourself because you don't feel like you measure up to what you're seeing. The best pictures of people's lives are not matching how hard day-to-day life can actually feel.
Yeah, I definitely see that with a lot of clients, listeners. Maybe it is social media, maybe it's food. A lot of them, often just screens in general, where they like that quick dopamine hit. They like to feel productive, but they're justifying not being present with loved ones, and they're not really living much of a life. When we get a little deeper into what that looks like, I love how you talked about constructive ways to get your needs met, where you really do feel more fulfillment. So tell us a little bit more about that part of the journey for you. You did therapy, different things. What else helped you stop going to those quick things that you would go to escape from the pain?
I think in part it's something that maybe it's just age and maturity and life experience. Is like I too, like everybody else, gets lured in by if I just have more accomplishments or if I just get to my goal weight. These things, again, that I don't want to say are unimportant. We all want to succeed and do well and be recognized. But if that's primarily what you're looking at to feel good about yourself, it's not a safe strategy, because healthy self-esteem is really a combination of a basic sense of inherent self-worth. I am a lovable, valuable person just in my own right, period. We also get a sense of self-worth from having some mastery over figuring out what we're good at and being able to do it. So that's not an unimportant part. So I just think I also was on the treadmill of trying to feel good about myself through too many external things, and it was too dependent on validation from outside rather than me deciding who do I want to be, what are my particular talents, what are my particular gifts, and can I learn to try my best to keep my eyes focused inward on being the best version of myself that I can be, and not worry so much about other people's opinions of me, and not compare myself so incessantly to other people, because I'm not other people. I can only be the best me, gifts I was born with and things like that. I think it was from a period of just going after all these things that I thought would make me feel better. If I had more success in my career, if I looked better, if I had more things. I was lucky enough that I got a lot of those things and got to see they're good. I'm glad I have financial security and some recognition, but they didn't deeply fulfill me. Part of my interest in psychology is what I love about our field. You get to learn about all these things. Like I talk in my book about, there's two different kinds of happiness that the researchers look into. One's called hedonic happiness and one's eudaimonic happiness. Hedonic happiness is more these quick hits of dopamine we get from activities that make us feel good in the moment. They just generate a high, a joyful feeling or something like that. And we actually need both kinds of happiness in our life, so we can't make one bad. But what they know about eudaimonic happiness is it derived from a life well lived. It includes authenticity, meaning, purpose, personal growth, and the satisfaction of living up to your potential.
That's beautiful.
And yeah, it took me a while to encounter that research. And it's like, this kind of helps explain. Like, I need now to kind of shift my attention more to how I live my life day to day. That includes me being authentically me, making choices that are aligned with things that I value, me caring about tending to my relationships. There's all kinds of research shows that one of the most important things for people having a good, happy life is having good relationships. And so rather than being so busy with trying to be accomplished and successful, do I put the same kind of attention and energy into my marriage and my best friends and family relationships? And so I think it was just a lot of being lucky enough to be in a field where I was learning about these things, combined with lived experience of trying the other way, which was too externally focused, and seeing that only got me so far. I really wanted to feel a kind of happiness that was a little longer lasting and wasn't quite so addictive either. A lot of the problems with some of the hedonic types of happiness that we go after, it's very addictive because you only get a short sensation of pleasure from it. And so then you keep going after it. Like, how many potato chips can you eat because they taste delicious and they're good before you feel bad? Or how many hours do you want to lose yourself in a video game before it's causing you some problems in your life?
That reminds me of a story. Yesterday I was talking with a client and he was saying, this last year I made so much more money than any year before. I've been doing so well in my career, really nailing it. He said, and it's interesting, I've never been so unhappy. And we talked through it. It might be fulfilling in one sense, like you're developing yourself, those accomplishments you talked about. And yet in this other sense, it's like his relationships were suffering. His marriage is suffering. He's really gone down this road that he never imagined himself being on, and has had major struggles in that regard and just a lot of regret. And now is course correcting, like, wait, I thought that would be it. And another quick story too, as we're filming this is January, February kind of time of year when it's very dark and dreary, especially where I live, and just really low energy every time of year it happens. And I was at the end of a long work day, just really wanting to engage with my son because that's what matters most to me, my family, my relationships, exactly what you're talking about. So really trying to tune into that a little bit and be like, I've got this, like trying to give myself that mental pep talk. And then I was like, okay, part of that we don't talk about enough is having realistic expectations too. Recognizing I'm human in that I can do my bare minimum today. Hey, buddy, why don't we lay down on my bed and cuddle and we'll both read a book next to each other and just be together and relax for a little bit. And he was so loving and so sweet. I thought that would be a loss and I'd be kind of ashamed a little bit. But it ended up being the exact opposite. Give yourself some grace and you're still doing what you can. I love how you go back to those things of not worrying so much about what other people might think, people pleasing, but still trying to live with greater fulfillment. Can you speak to that a little bit more? I know we can be really hard on ourselves when we get stuck with people pleasing or any of those other traps you mentioned.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It reminds me of that story on the airplane when they say, put your mask on first before you help your kid. But we want to be so giving, which is a good thing in general. But if we're giving from an empty well, it just doesn't work. We end up a little bitter and resentful and exhausted. It's like finding that balance. In our family, it was so sensitive, like, don't be selfish. Like, so then it became self-care. Any kind of self-care made me question, am I being selfish? And I had to learn that I have to take care of myself well enough that I can be a good vessel for being a loving, caring, generous person in the world. And if I don't take the time that I need to refill my own tank, what good am I really? I'm just running myself ragged, like running a car with not enough gasoline in it. So that helped me kind of get over this guilt about taking the time to take care of myself. So I love your beautiful story about so creative that you came up with a way to take care of yourself while being loving and offering your physical presence to your son. But there's something else that is important, and Marshall Lenehan talks about it. It's the acceptance and change, the dialectic tension between acceptance and change. Really important for all of us as we're moving through life is to balance out how much we push ourselves to improve and be better and grow, excel and reach our potential. That's all great stuff, but it has to be balanced out with a certain amount of, you're okay. You're just okay. Who you are, the work you've done so far, let that be enough for right now. Every day doesn't have to be about striving to be something more. Can you savor and appreciate yourself for how you survive the hard things that happen in life, what you've already accomplished, who you already are, and the gifts that you bring to the world, as imperfect as you are? That needs to be okay too.
I love that you talk about this. I don't think this is a part that's talked about enough. I have over 300 podcast episodes now, and I look back on those first 50, 100, and kind of makes me chuckle. Part of me is a little bit ashamed, a little bit embarrassed, because it was like, go, 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 accomplish, do. That's part of the journey, part of the learning. And I think that has its place for sure. But I think that acceptance piece that you're talking about and letting it be enough and having more grace and lowering your expectations sometimes models for the people that we love that this is part of the human experience. This is going to be messy and hard sometimes. We're going to fall flat on our face and normalize some of those things too. I don't think I always did the best job with that. Now I'm giving my younger self some grace for that. But yeah, it's very much of a piece of it, having that balance. And we're always trying to course correct a little bit, like that airplane navigation, like just the small micro adjustments that can help us when we're trying to achieve that fulfillment. Like sometimes it can seem so big and vast and unattainable that maybe it's okay to be messy sometimes and just sit there with your son, reading a book and not really doing much else.
Not doing. We call ourselves human beings, but we're really human doings, you know?
So tell me a little bit more about your book. Do you have some favorite parts of it that really help others as they're trying to find their own fulfillment?
The book highlights 5 important areas that I believe you need in order to have a sturdier base for better mental health. And that includes a healthy sense of self, which includes things like healthy self-esteem, really appreciating and valuing yourself, but being humble enough to know that you have shortcomings. It's about authenticity, being more true to who you really are and living that way. It means having agency, that you believe you have some ability to influence your life in a positive direction, and you make use of that agency where you can. And it involves having a moral compass so that you figure out what your values are and you try to live by that. It involves finding some meaning and purpose. It involves a lot of self-compassion so that you are kind to yourself as you're going through. I'm a big believer that life is a beautiful thing, but it's also quite hard at times. And so that you're kind to yourself while you're on the journey. A healthy sense of self is probably one of my favorite of these 5 essential ingredients to having better mental health and fulfillment. The second one that's also really important is figuring out healthier coping mechanisms. It's human nature to want to avoid being in pain. And so early on, we learn different ways to cope with not feeling too uncomfortable in life. And a lot of our coping strategies end up getting us into trouble. For example, there's kind of 2 categories. One is avoidant strategies and one's controlling strategies. And so there's all kinds of things that we do to avoid pain. But when we avoid doing things in order not to feel uncomfortable, it really shrinks our life and constricts things and makes it small. And we don't have the chance to learn from failure and make mistakes and figure out who we are and what we can do. Controlling strategies can turn into things like obsessive compulsive disorder and driving other people that know us crazy because we're always micromanaging them and ourselves. The idea is to figure out your tendencies for how you protect yourself and to be compassionate with yourself because you needed to. It's hard to be in pain. It's hard to feel the discomforts of life. But then ask yourself, are any of these ways of coping that don't serve me well and don't serve my life well? The book gives more examples of coping strategies. Overeating might be an example. Drinking too much alcohol to calm yourself down after a hard day and relax. It's like you have to figure out what need are you trying to meet because the need is super important. And then see is there a different way that I could take care of that need that might be more healthy? If you're trying to avoid pain by drinking because you're grieving the loss of your mother or something like that. One of the solutions is not an easy one, but we have to learn how to tolerate that life hurts sometimes. When you lose someone you love, it's painful.
Thanks for joining us today in this heartfelt conversation with Dr. Celeste Birkhofer. If today's episode reminded you that your fulfillment matters just as much as your family's, take the next step. Visit fulfillmenttherapy.org to sign up for our upcoming group coaching series or explore our blog for more tools to help you thrive. If you'd like to share your story or suggest a future topic, we'd love to hear from you at hello@fulfillmenttherapy.org. I'll see you back here soon for part 2. Hey friends, if you enjoyed this episode, a quick 30-second share can help someone else find support and help this podcast grow. Leaving a review on Apple Podcasts boosts visibility and keeps the show alive. Your simple acts make a big difference. I'll see you back here each week for more life-changing episodes.